Scuba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba. Music for a sushi restaurant, music for a sushi restaurant, music for a sushi restaurant. Oh hey, how you doing? I didn't see you there. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariana, but you can call me Mari, and today we will be talking about Harry Styles. So I kind of wanted to take another approach to Harry Styles book recommendation videos because I didn't really want to read Harry Styles' favorite books because I don't want to read a lot of books written by men, and and so considering that Harry Styles just came out with a new album called Harry's House, and of course I have listened to it many times, so now I think I am very well acquainted with the album, enough to talk about it. And so I wanted to go through the songs of the album one by one and then pick a book for each one of the songs that I think maybe fits the theme or the feeling of the song or something about it. So this is what we're going to be doing today, and I hope you enjoy. So the first song of this Harry Styles album is called Music for a Sushi Restaurant. Music for a sushi restaurant, music for a sushi. It is quite a fun way to start the album, and I think this is the most upbeat song of the album. We get a lot of metaphors for food, and and he gives us a lot of descriptions of fried rice, eggs. He also talks about coffee on the stove and ice cream. And so I thought, why not pick a book that deals with food and love and romance? And the book I picked is called Como Agua para Chocolate de Laura Esquivel. This is a Latin American book, and the translation in English is like water for chocolate. And the fun thing about this book, and the reason I picked it, is because each chapter begins with a recipe that has to do with the theme for what the chapter is going to be about. So we follow our main protagonist who cooks a lot, and so every single chapter has to do with the recipe that is introduced at the beginning, and it shows you the ingredients and how much you would need for each thing that they're making. This does have a lot of magic realism aspects, especially at the very end, and I will say I enjoyed reading the book as a whole, even though I didn't really enjoy the ending in itself. So I think it, in terms of like a reading experience, it does feel like Music for a Sushi Restaurant because it is fun in some ways, and it is a very interesting novel, and it is very short, so very easy to get through. But I think the food metaphors here are a little bit different than the Harry Styles song, but I still wanted to mention it because I thought of this book immediately after I started thinking about this video. So, Como Agua para Chocolate is my first pick. Then, and following what I wrote in my little notebook, the second song in Harry Styles' album is Late Night Talking. If you're feeling down, I just wanna make you happier, baby. And this song specifically feels very nostalgic. It feels like you're missing someone. You miss the late night talks you had with that person. You're looking at the horizon and thinking about them. And for this specific song, I picked Circe by Madeline Miller. And the reason why I picked this novel is because our main protagonist, Circe, is stuck in an island for a little bit, and so she is, or for a while actually, and so she is waiting and missing someone for a really long time. Obviously, if you're acquainted with Greek mythology, you will know who I am talking about, but just in case, I don't want to spoil it. In case you know nothing and you want to read the book, I wanted to include it anyways. It's not my favorite book of all time, but I did enjoy the reading experience, and I think it does bring up this nostalgic feeling of missing someone or being always apart from the person you love. And so I picked Circe by Madeline Miller for Late Night Talking. And then the third song of Harry's House is Grapefruit. There's just no getting through without you. And this reminded me of a scene from a movie where the characters are just laying on the grass, surrounded by flowers, just drinking some wine and eating some grapes and just having a very nice chit-chat conversation. And then there's also the mention of a late night afternoon, going to pick flowers for someone, going to a garden. I don't know why, it just brings forth this idea of a sunny afternoon that you want to spend with someone. And for this song, I picked The Bookshop of Second Chances by Jackie Fraser. And the main reason is because the two main characters go to the beach multiple times throughout the book, and there's one particular scene where they go and they enjoy an evening together, and then they have wine later in the afternoon and later at night, and so they develop this acquaintance that then becomes a friendship and then becomes obviously a romance, because this is a romance book. And I actually really enjoyed this romance book. I thought it was very well done. I liked the main character. I thought she was really fun. It gives me the fluffy nature of what this song may imply, but also the depth to which each person gets to know each other through our encounters. And yeah, I thought it was a lovely book, and I really enjoyed this song, and so I thought it was a good pick for this one. Then the fourth song in Harry Styles' album is As It Was. You know it's not the same as it was, which is the first single he released from the album, and it caused a lot of outbursts of many different opinions, and in my case I actually really enjoyed the song. I don't necessarily think I heard anything negative about it. I think it set the tone for a more mature Harry, for a more pop-focused album, which I think this is. And for this song I picked the novel Norwegian Wood by Murakami. I don't really like this novel. I didn't really enjoy reading it, but at the same time, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I'm not going to say that the novel is exactly like it, but I will say that I think, based on the fact that Harry Styles has read this book and has recommended this book and really likes Murakami, is that this song, just mentioning that everything was the same as it was, and Harry, you're no good alone, mentioning cocaine, mentioning just all these tiny little things and details of like maybe like a very lonely guy going through a bit of a hard time. And even though the song has a very poppy and happy rhythm, the lyrics are kind of sad and make you feel bad for Harry and whatever he was feeling at the time he was writing the song. And so that's why I picked Norwegian Wood, because our main character is insufferable. He's horrible, but he's also lonely, and you can tell he cannot connect to the people around him, and the only person he can connect to is almost not even there for many different reasons. And if you enjoy Murakami, I think obviously you've probably already read Norwegian Wood. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. I think it falls in the middle, which is weird, but at the same time it's a book that I will be thinking about for a while. Even the worst parts of the novel, and even the horrible things that the main character says, kind of projected onto the author's ideas, I would even say, due to the fact that I've read other Murakami books and they're all the same. Just for this song, I think it's very fitting. And so Murakami was my pick for the song As It Was. Then for the fifth song in Harry's house, Daylight. Daylight, you got me cursing the daylight. Ooh. I picked Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney herself. And I picked this one because since the song deals with traveling and kind of falling in love but not being able to 100% say it, and that line of, if I was a bluebird I would fly to you, dippy on honey so I could be sticking to you. It's all these intrusive almost feelings of wanting to feel this way but not wanting to feel this way about someone and not being able to recognize it. And it's just an everyday sense of how life is. And I think Sally Rooney in her novels is able to capture everyday love in a very realistic way, I would venture to say. And especially in this book, I feel like it's a lot more optimistic than the other ones. And for this song, I wanted to pick the more optimistic side of things. And I think the first lines of the song, like, I'm looking this way to read the lyrics. It says, I was nosebleeding, looking for life out there, reading your horoscope. You were just doing cocaine in my kitchen. You never listen. I hope you're missing me right now. It feels a lot like Sally Rooney. So I'm adding to the multiverse of Sally Rooney madness and connections with Taylor Swift, Harry Styles, Phoebe Bridgers, everyone, by saying that I think this song is heavily inspired by Sally Rooney. How bold of a claim. Yeah, no, don't actually quote me on this. Then for number 6, Little Freak. Just thinking about you. I chose the song Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. Mainly, one, because of the title, because the kids in this novel are little freaks, but in the best way, but also they are little freaks. They are able to spontaneously combust. And our main protagonist is called by her old friend from high school to babysit them. And so this song feels to me very nostalgic of a friendship you once had, or maybe a crush you once had on someone, and then how you remember that person, how they were back then. And I feel like the protagonist in this novel is also thinking about this friend who asked her to babysit her kids in a very nostalgic way, but also she has a lot of resentment towards her, but subdued resentment that she doesn't really want to recognize until it like overflows. And so it reminded me of this book. It's a pretty short book. I listened to the audiobook. I enjoyed the story, and I thought it was a pretty interesting take. I had never read anything like it, and I don't think I'll ever read anything like it again. And so yeah. Now moving on to the 7th song. It's one of my favorite of all of Harry Styles' songs. It's called Matilda. You can let it go. You can throw a party full of everyone you know. And for this one, I couldn't go with anything but the obvious pick, Matilda by Roald Dahl. And I'm sorry if you were expecting another type of book, but honestly, I heard this song, I read the title of the song, and all I could think about was Matilda. And I love the story of Matilda, and holds such a special place in my heart from when I was a kid, and I loved reading this book, and it's the first whole novel I read that I just thought about it, and it made sense because the song talks about a kid whose family doesn't accept her, and how she has all the right in the world to just be herself and grow old and grow up and not feel guilty about the choices that she's made, even if it means leaving those who hurt you behind. And maybe that's exactly what you need to be doing as you're growing older. And so I just thought it was a reminiscent song for the book Matilda. Then I picked for cinema, You got the cinema. Number 8 in Harry's house. I picked The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid because, I mean, she's a movie actress and she brings the cinema, she brings the drama, and she has a cinema. And this is a very like upbeat poppy song. Also one of the most upbeat songs in the album, alongside Music for a Sushi Restaurant. And it's very sensual and talks about popping things and popping popcorn. And I immediately thought of this novel because reading this novel is so immersive. It feels like you're watching a documentary, or like a very fun documentary, or like a movie about Evelyn Hugo. She feels like a real person, and so I really enjoyed this novel. It also includes a lot of romance, as you can tell. If she had 7 husbands, I wonder why. There are a lot of surprises with this book, and I don't really want to go in depth into it because I think you should read it. It is very hyped. I personally think the hype is very well deserved. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I love it. So Harry Styles, Evelyn Hugo, it just seems to fit. So yeah. Then for number 9, Daydream. I picked Heartstopper by Alice Oseman because this is one of the most romantic songs in the album, and this book felt like walking into the daylight after a long slumber where my heart wasn't feeling anything and I wasn't really enjoying romance books. And then I read Heartstopper. It pulled at my heartstrings so much and it made me cry, and I loved the characters. I loved the story. I don't think this one is overhyped either. I really loved it. I loved the representation. I loved reading about gay characters in a non-tragic way or as like side characters in a story. So I love Heartstopper. The graphic novels are beautiful and the show is beautiful and Harry Styles is beautiful and the song Daylight is beautiful, and it reminds me of just walking into a field full of light and joy. And so does this book, but it also has a lot of very deep topics that are handled very well, and I couldn't not recommend it. I love Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Then, for number 10, Keep Driving.
Should we just keep driving?
I picked People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry because the song mentions food and it mentions many different aspects of like a road trip kind of thing. It says passports in foot wheels, kiss her and don't tell, life hacks of going viral in the bathroom, just a lot of different things that I feel like the characters in this novel maybe have experienced together on all their different vacations. It's about two friends who go on vacations together, and we follow them 2 years after their last vacation that something happened, and so they reunite and they go on one last vacation together. And it was a good book and I wanted to recommend it. Alright, so the next song, number 11, is Satellite.
I go round and round, satellite.
And for this one, I picked The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. And many of the lines in this song, one, I realized that there's a lot of cocaine mentioned in this song, like a lot of drug use. And as they share the last line, then they drink the wall. We drink the wall. I don't know what that means. Then, Till We Wanna Talk, go round and round, satellite spinning out, waiting for you to pull me in. I can see you're lonely down there. Don't you know that I am right here? And The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender is about a girl who is born with wings. And you can probably tell that I picked this book mostly for that line of, I can see you're lonely down there, very literal to her being able to fly and everything. But it's not only the fact that she has wings that makes her different, is that her family has a history of different types of relationships. So we follow 3 generations in this story, and it's one very sad, a very, very sad novel. And it makes you feel this way of the characters not being able to communicate, but in a way that is not like infuriatingly so, like in most romance books. It's not for the plot to move forward. It's because of the fact that she is different from everybody else and how that affects her, how that affects those around her, whether this is seen as a curse or as a blessing. And I feel like this character kind of feels the same way as what maybe Harry was feeling while writing this, of spinning out, not being able to see everything straight because of different things. And then, well, in this case because of drugs, but in the case of this book for other factors. And wanting someone to talk to and not being able to. But yeah, this is beautiful. One of my favorite books. Highly recommend it. Then the next song, number 12, is called Boyfriends.
You're back at it again.
And for this one I picked The Book of X, because in the song it's mostly Harry, I feel like, questioning why this girl is falling for the same guys over and over again and following the same patterns of behavior that keep her in a very abusive relationship. And in this case, our character is born with an actual knot in her stomach. And so one, very metaphorical, to be born with a knot in your stomach. Obviously, when we say we have a knot in our stomachs, it means like something is worrying you. And in the case of this book, having a physical abnormality makes it so that it's hard for her to connect with other people, and it's very, very hard for her to find a romantic partner that doesn't discriminate her for having a knot in her stomach. And she falls for these guys who treat her horribly over and over and over again. And there are portions of this book where the author includes dream sequences of what could have happened if she didn't have the knot. And so we see a completely different reality, and that she's able to keep healthy relationships. But unfortunately, this book doesn't end up very well, as the cycle repeats itself over and over, and she's not really able to get out of the depression that it causes her to have a physical abnormality, and then to be able to maybe move forward once they find a cure or something like that. And it's just a very sad book. But this song is really sad to me. I love the harmonies. I think it sounds beautiful, but it is in itself very sad. Even though when I read the title of the song, I thought it was going to be about boyfriends that Harry has had. I was disappointed to learn that it wasn't that way. A little bit of queer baiting, if you're asking me, but I picked this book because of the content of the lyrics. We are in the last song of Harry's House, and for this one we have my personal favorite song of the album, which is Love of My Life.
Babe, you are the love of my life.
When I first heard it, I thought it was dedicated to someone he actually really, really loves up until this day. But upon reading the lyrics and analyzing what they may be talking about, I realized that it's probably about idealizing a person and then believing that they are the love of your life once they are gone. So not appreciating what you have until it's gone, or you leaving and then regretting your choices. And so that's pretty much what it feels to me. And so I couldn't really pick a book that didn't fall under the circumstances of maybe like one of the characters dying, and so and like the main character reminiscing upon their love and getting really sad about it. So I picked a different route, and I chose The Phantom of the Opera. I have another type of edition. One of my friends gave it to me, where we have two different quotes. One, I am dying of love, and two, I am built up of death. And I feel like the Phantom in this book gives off very much the feeling of idealizing Christine, who's the main character, and loving her, even though he doesn't really truly know everything about her. In the song, Harry mentions that he doesn't really know this person very well, but that he still loves them. And he also says that he wasn't able to truly discover all the creases of the personality of this person. And I feel like in this case, the Phantom is not really truly in love with Christine. I think he's in love with the idea of her. And I mean, we could argue about the meanings of this novel. It's a classic, so there are a lot of themes that we could go into. I believe that the novel portrays a very sad, resentful man who's holding on to his love for someone who he doesn't actually really know. And I love the musical. I read the book a couple of years ago. I would have to give it a reread to truly make my mind about it, because I couldn't read it. I think I was comparing it too much to the musical, and the novel is, I think, very different in many different aspects, and one of them is the Phantom. And so that's why I'm saying that I think in this case he truly believes that Christine is the love of his life. But is it really? So yeah, that is Harry Styles' album, Harry's House. I really, really liked it. I think I will continue listening to it, and I hope you enjoyed this video where I talked about different books in relation to the album and gave you some recommendations of books that you may want to read if you really liked Harry's House. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're drinking water, stay hydrated, stay safe, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye bye!